Hi everyone, it's Shana with Dancing Daisy Designs, and today I'm going to be doing a project using my favorite new mold by IOD. Can you guess which one it is? So these are the three items that I'm going to be making over in this video, and the transformations are amazing. So I'm going to be using my favorite mold. I don't know if you guessed, but it is the Primitive Mold. This was just released this summer by IOD, and I absolutely love it so much. The first one I'm going to start working on is this box, and it's kind of like a tabletop box with drawers, and as you can see, it has like the 1980s style grapes on it, and I don't like that. I think that's kind of outdated for my personal taste, so I'm going to be adding some of the molds on here and completely transforming it, and spoiler, it turns out so good. So now I'm trying to decide how I'm going to do it, where I'm going to put the molds, and so on and so forth. And I did decide that even putting the molds over the grapes, some of the grapes were going to show a little bit. So I did decide to go in with some wood filler, and I just kind of filled in some of the gaps, like where the little grape pieces were and some of the vines, just to kind of try and hide that just a little bit more, just in case my placement of the molds don't hide it completely. I'm going to go ahead and just do a few molds and then kind of place them onto the piece. I think that's going to help me visualize like a pattern that I want. So I'm just putting some cornstarch into the mold here. That just helps the clay release better. It's makes it easier, but you don't have to do this. You can still get the clay to release without the cornstarch. So I'm just using my air dry clay for this, and this is what it looks like. It is kind of like, it reminds me of Play-Doh really, if I'm going to be honest. And what you do is you just kind of tear off a chunk, kind of the size that you think you might need for the mold. I like to squish it in my hands and just warm it up and make it more pliable a little bit, and then you just squish it down into the mold, and the mold has like this little micro rim that makes it really easy to get like a nice crisp mold. You just kind of use your thumb and pull off the excess clay, and then once you've got it all ready to go, you just turn it over upside down and kind of bend it, and it'll release right out. I'm actually going to do like several of them here, all the ones that I cornstarched before I release them out. You could do that too, or you could just do one at a time. It really just depends on how you want to do it. And then once I have the molds that I've selected ready, we're going to do a layout here and kind of decide how we want to place it onto our drawer. Now that I have got my placement, how I would like it, I am going to just glue these down, and I'm just using regular wood glue for this. It's Titebond, I think 2, and I use a popsicle stick. That way I can get the glue all the way to the edges. That way it adheres down really well, no matter what's underneath of it. And I am gluing these down while they're still pliable, so they're not dry. That way if there's like a gap or something, I can kind of push it down and make it look like it was always there. Now I have got my molds down onto all 3 drawers, and this is what each drawer looks like. I think it's going to look so cute, and I think it's pretty updated. I'm happy with these, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in, and I've decided that I'm going to keep the same color story. So I want black underneath, and then I want to paint over it with white. That way when I distress it back, you'll see the black. So here I'm using DIY paint in the color Little Black Dress, and I'm just going in and I'm going to paint the tops of all of the molds. That way, like I said, when I distress it back, you're going to see black, and it's going to have like a cool contrast. So I'm going to get the tops of all of these painted up, let it dry, and then I'm going to come in and I'm going to paint over everything with white paint. So I decided that this box needed a little bit more life. The black and white was and so I decided I was going to do some details with the stamp. So I chose the Pennsylvania Folk stamp, which is also a brand new stamp from IOD. And what I'm doing is I'm seasoning it because I just opened it. So what you want to do is take sandpaper, like a low grit sandpaper, and just kind of go in two different directions. Kind of wakes up the rubber, helps it to accept the ink better, so you're going to get a better impression when you stamp. So I did paint the drawers with a Cowgirl Coral by DIY Paint, and it's this nice kind of like corally pink color, and I think that gave it like a little bit more fun. And so now I'm just trying to figure out my layout that I'm going to do on the sides of the drawers with the stamp. Now I'm coming in with a piece of thin mount, which is just like a clear plastic with a grid on it, and I'm going to pick up my stamps with the layout. That way they're going to go down exactly how I had them placed. I'm going to use some paint instead of ink for this because I want it to look a little bit more like rustic. And so I'm going to use my brayer. So I'm just going to put a little bit of paint down and then roll it with my brayer and then apply it on to the back of the stamp and then press it down. And this is what that looks like. Now I've got it all painted and I've got my drawers done. So now I'm going to give it a nice distress and bring back some of the black underneath. So I'm going to take my drawers out. All right, now I'm going to use just a damp rag and I'm going to wet distress it just to bring back a little bit more. Make it look kind of old and used and worn. Now I'm going to distress the drawer fronts, and as you remember, we painted it black underneath on purpose, so when we distress it back, we'll see the black. So I'm just going to take my damp cloth and my finger, and I'm just going to go over the tops, and it's going to bring out all of that great detail in the molds. So see how it's brought out the detail in all of the flowers? Really pretty. Now I'm going to distress the sides of the drawers here. After I seal it, it's going to pull, like the black is going to look a little bit more vibrant, and that's going to look really great. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to distress all of the drawers, and then I'm going to give them a seal, and then we'll look at the final product. But what do you think? Didn't that do a great job of covering up the grapes that were under there? You can't even see them. And all these little parts that are like divoted in here, they just look like they're part of the design. And I think that looks really nice.
There's no one like you, my little girl. Your eyes so blue under those brown curls. Soon you're on your way, promise me that you know the world is...
All right, I'm gonna work on this cute wall shelf here next. And as you can see at the top, it has like something missing that fell out of it. So I've replaced that. I actually just used some air dry clay and glued it in. I filled that gap that was in this area. If you recall from the beginning, there was a big gap there where whatever embellishment they had fallen out. I did a quick job on this so you can still kind of feel the gap, but I'm just gonna go with it. This is meant to be like old, tattered, been around for 100 years. So I did add this mold over it just to give it some detail, and I painted over the color of wood with dark and decrepit just to darken it up a little bit because I felt like the color was quite light for the style. So now I'm just going to paint it with DIY paint, and this is the color Apothecary. So I'm going to use this color, and I'm just going to go over this whole thing. For the final project, I'm going to be updating this cute little tabletop drawer set, and first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fill these little holes at the top. Somebody screwed some holes into it, so they could probably hang it on the wall. So I'm just going to use my wood filler, fill that, let it dry, give it a quick sand, make it nice and smooth, and then I'm going to be using the Monarch mold. I felt like this was more appropriate for this style, so I'm just going to be using one of the moths from this, and I'm going to do the same thing I did on the last two. I'm going to put some Type Bond 2 wood glue on the back and glue it down. I'm going to go over it with some darkened Decrepit just to darken it up. That way when I distress it back, it's going to have brown underneath instead of white. I'm going to give this guy a paint job in the color Aviary by DIY Paint. I think it's going to look really cute with this style. And while I'm giving this a paint job, I just wanted to remind you that all of the paint and products that I sell are available at dancingdaisydesigns.com. I have the paint, the brushes, the IOD, along with some other great products, so make sure to pop on over there and check it out. And don't forget to follow me on social media. I am on Facebook and Instagram. And if you're not already subscribed here on YouTube, please make sure to subscribe. And all of this helps me out so much. I'm a small business. It's just me. And so I really have to hustle. And so everything you guys do, following me, watching my videos, helps me out so much. Okay, for this little guy, he's all dry now. And I decided to leave just the little knobs brown. I think that looks really cute, a little two-toned. So I have my damp rag, and I'm gonna go in. I'm just gonna clean up around the knobs really good because I did get a little bit of paint on them. It was really hard not to. And after I do that, I'm going to give it a little bit of a distress. Like that, like the drawers got opened a lot. And then I'm also going to just do a little bit here. This part right here is covered up by the drawers completely. So I'm going to look just more down here at the edges, on the bottom, the sides. See how that just brings a little bit of the undercolor back? And then remember we painted the butterfly with the darkened Decrepit. We painted it brown. That way when we distress it back here, it's going to have like a brown underneath, and it's going to match the rest of the piece better. So definitely want the butterfly distressed so it can come back and look amazing. Doesn't that look nice? Look at that butterfly. He is so pretty. There's this, oh, there we go. We had a white spot on there, but it came off. So yeah, this is just going to get a nice distressing, and then it's going to get sealed up using my DIY clear wax, and it's almost empty, but that's okay. It'll be plenty because a little goes a long way. So you just want to get a little bit on your brush like that, and then you just start rubbing it in. I think I'm going to take the drawers out. I'm going to rub it in with your brush just like this. And since I just distressed this, I'm not going to push too hard because I don't want to pull up any excess paint. That can happen if the paint is fresh. And since it was just a little wetted by my distressing, I'm just going to be kind of careful not to add any more paint distressing with my wax back in there. So that's what it looks like when the wax is on. See how it's deepened in color? That's the clay in the paint. The clay will absorb any kind of moisture and it'll darken. And after the after the wax dries, or whatever sealer that you put on this paint, it'll lighten up a little bit, probably about excuse me, medium to you know, between without and with. It's like a color right in between there. So don't freak out, especially with wax. There's something called the wax freak out factor, and that's when you apply the wax and then it looks blotchy and you think, oh no, did I ruin it? You didn't ruin it. It just needs to have a little bit of time to kind of settle in. When applying wax as a sealer, you just want to put your wax on kind of liberally, and then take a rag, just like a soft dry rag and wipe off any excess kind of gently. Let it dry on there, so maybe like a day, few hours, overnight, something like that. And then you can go back and you can kind of buff it out, and you can bring out a sheen, or you can leave it kind of like a matte look.
Go on now, be good, be fine, live your life, dream big, don't forget to be kind, live, it's your life. Rocks are meant to be picked up and thrown. New ideas can be pleasantly overgrown. But you know where to go if you follow that heart. One step at a time, we all play our part. Go on now, be good, be fine, live your life, dream big, don't forget to be kind, live, it's your life, go on now.
Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope that you enjoyed this makeover. I love how we took something that was just like a style that did not fit, and we made it over completely into a totally different style. I absolutely love how it turned out, and I hope that you do too. If you did, please make sure that you like this video, give me a big thumbs up, and if you're not already subscribed, please subscribe. And if you need any of the products that I used in this video, you can find all of those at dancingdaisydesigns.com. And I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.
Chase your dreams.